When you take a group of people, you get something that's rather interesting. Because a group of people is not the sum of the people in the crowd. And it's also not just the average of those people in the crowd. In some ways, a group, a crowd, a mob, a community is a unique entity. It's this fleeting and mysterious creature with its own almost personality and motivations. It can be very difficult to predict the behavior of one person. But as any urban engineer or crisis manager has to learn pretty quickly, it's easier to predict how a crowd will respond. If there's an emergency, how will people react? You can predict that a certain number of people are going to move towards the danger and a certain number are going to move away, and they'll move in predictable ways, where each person is chaotic and unpredictable. But the crowd has its own wisdom, its own intelligence. And this is very easy to prove that people are very good at estimating things. A crowd beats a person most of the time. So if you show a group of people a heavy thing and you ask them how much it weighs, if you show them something valuable and ask them how much it costs, all sorts of things like this, people will make wildly different guesses. And some of those guesses will be ridiculous. Well, you average them out and you get something that's pretty close to the true value. And the bigger the group, the more true that is. But that's just a matter of perception and judgments. Is a group of people more creative than an individual? And the answer is yes, but because you can imagine, and I'm sure you've seen this, a lone visionary writing a book or directing a movie, and it is a piece of genius because it contains a part of their soul. It's their singular vision, and they've been able to pour all of that vision and themselves into it. Meanwhile, there's the joke about a cow is a horse designed by a committee, and a committee can just it can be the worst parts of all of the people. So rather than the average, it's worse than any one person's idea. And so what's going on there? How can a group be so clever and also be so clumsy? And it gets even more complicated when you consider that the groups can actually be very creative under the right conditions. Fascinating book on this, in fact, it's a series of books, is Wikinomics. So these cases where these businesses would seek the wisdom of the crowds in order to solve unsolvable problems. My favorite example from that book is a mining company. They got all of this geological survey data, like incredible amounts more than any one person could look through. And they'd have experts study it and they'd run algorithms on it and like looking for what geological clues would suggest that gold is in the soil somewhere. And what they found is when they released this data to the public and offered people a reward for anyone who was able to predict where gold would be, they quickly got these radical and new ideas from the crowd that were not only accurate, but they were so far outside of what the experts would have predicted that they never would have found this gold otherwise. So how do you use a group in order to be innovative and creative? Well, a common approach is to do some basic brainstorming. So you get people in a room and you're okay, let's throw some ideas out there. You know, no dumb ideas. Let's just write some stuff on a whiteboard. And if you have the right sort of culture and the right sort of environment, you can get some pretty good stuff out of that. You know, a crowd is going to generate a wider range of ideas, and they're also going to be able to refine the ideas. So one person might be more of a visionary type, and they put a radical idea out there, and then another person, more practical, more pragmatic, can take that idea and tweak it and change the variables, make it something that's much more likely to succeed. It works quite well, but it does rely on that culture being there, that trust being there. And of course, you have the issue that there's going to be quieter people in that group. And there's always a chance that the brainstorming session will not give the quieter people the chance to really speak their mind. The louder personalities can dominate, and they're not necessarily the smartest people. Better than brainstorming, which can be quite basic, is more of a facilitation. So you have someone who's able to lead the group through a series of questions or discussions or experiences, and then facilitates the process, the results of that. The group facilitation it can be so varied that it can be like difficult to describe what it involves because whatever you say about it, there's going to be brilliant facilitators out there who just don't operate that way. What I like to do with my facilitation is rather than the brainstorming sort of thing, it's like, let's get some ideas out of there. Yeah, you ask some questions about what's going on? What's the real nature of the problem? Let's dig down into it. What is the problem and what's the cause and what's the cause of that and what's the cause of that? But also asking questions like, what would the ideal solution look like? And like, hypothetically, if you could do anything, what would you do? And you will get good answers out of questions like this. But there's often real magic in what goes unsaid. Like someone will put forward an idea and what they say suggests that they look at the world a certain way. They have certain assumptions. There are constraints on their thinking that they don't even know that they're there. And if you're attentive to the language and the body language of people, then you can notice opportunities to go, hold on a minute, I just noticed that you said something about the finances or about the market or about the conditions. And I'd just like to explore that a little bit more. It can be real magic buried in the back of people's minds, and they don't even know it's there. Once you start poking these assumptions and start really asking if what they believe is true, then done safely and with great care, you can find some incredible things that you wouldn't find otherwise. It's not the only way that I do group facilitations, but if you want the best and the newest ideas out of your people, it can be an excellent approach to adopt.